It's funny. When you look at a map of a bustling city, right? You see the glittering skyline, the major highways, the famous landmarks.
Right, the stuff they put on the postcards.
Exactly. It all looks so solid. But what the map doesn't show you are the subterranean pressures. Like, it doesn't show you the invisible zoning laws or the structural fault lines or, the hidden sinkholes that could just swallow a building whole without a single moment's notice.
Yeah, you're only seeing the surface topography. You aren't seeing the actual mechanics of, like, what keeps the city standing or, honestly, what deliberately tears it down.
Right. So today, we're taking you on a deep dive into the ultimate city of illusions, which is Hollywood. We're opening up this really fascinating 4-year-old internet time capsule from the Reddit community, our FOMOI.
Oh, yeah, FOMOI.
Yeah, a space that self-describes as the cultural zeitgeist archivists. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the hidden retribution economy of the entertainment industry.
Which is such a massive topic.
It really is. We are looking at a viral thread that posed this highly explosive question. Basically, which celebrities who were right on the verge of going A-list had their careers completely derailed because they pissed off someone powerful?
Yeah, almost A-listers.
Exactly. And by looking at these answers, we aren't just gossiping. We are going to unpack the unwritten rules and those invisible fault lines of Hollywood power dynamics.
And, before we dive into the specific actors, it's really crucial to understand the space where this conversation is actually happening, because our FOMOI is a truly unique ecosystem.
It really is, yeah.
If you look at the source material we're analyzing, it beautifully juxtaposes the mechanics of celebrity with these incredibly heavy real-world issues.
It's a wild juxtaposition to scroll through. I mean, you see a post about Zendaya's Instagram right next to something completely profound.
Exactly. Right next to discussions about Hollywood blacklisting and Zendaya, this exact same community is amplifying a post about UN reports regarding violence against children. Right below that, they are cheering on a historic 2-year rent freeze in New York. And then, like a few posts down, they're doing a deep dive analysis of how Snapchat CEO Evan Spiegel and model Miranda Kerr erased over $550 million in medical debt for hundreds of thousands of Californians.
That is just incredible.
It proves that you, the listener, are diving into a space where the consumers of pop culture are actually highly engaged citizens. They're navigating this world where pop culture and severe real-world consequences constantly collide.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the first major theme we see in this FOMOI thread gets right to the heart of traditional Hollywood power. We're talking about the bruised egos of studio mega titans.
The ultimate ego trap.
Right, and it illustrates just how fragile the foundation of A-list status really is. But I want to understand the how here. The thread brings up Steven Spielberg as, like, the ultimate enforcer of this old-school power. But how does that actually work mechanically?
It's a great question, because, it's rarely a formal memo.
It's like an email going out.
Right, there's no blacklist newsletter. In the context of this thread, Spielberg represents the absolute peak of the mountain. And power at that level operates through an invisible network of deference.
Okay.
Take the example of Megan Fox at the forum highlights. After the first Transformers movie, she was the undisputed it girl.
Oh, she was everywhere.
She was. But she was effectively banned from the franchise because she made comments in an interview calling the director, Michael Bay, difficult to work with. According to the archivists in this thread, that ban was an order that came directly from Spielberg, who was an executive producer on the film.
Right, but I just don't get how one producer snaps his fingers and erases the lead actress from a billion-dollar franchise. I mean, how?
Well, it's because of where the money flows. An executive producer at Spielberg's level essentially acts as the bank's guarantor. If he signals that an actor is a liability to the working environment of his directors, casting directors and studio heads across the industry take note.
So it's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. They don't need a written blacklist. The ecosystem simply senses the freeze. No studio executive wants to be the one to hire the actor that Steven Spielberg just deemed unmanageable. It's just an automatic risk management response.
Wow. Which brings us to the Sean Young story.
Oh.
So the thread mentions her auditioning extensively for Marion Ravenwood in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
She didn't get the part, which obviously went to Karen Allen, but she felt strung along. So at a New Year's Eve party, she spots Spielberg and literally marches up to him and accuses him of misleading her.
Yeah, and the thread notes that Spielberg became highly offended, insisting defensively that he hadn't misled her. Sean Young even claimed she had to tell him to calm down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the quote in the thread describes him as being very sensitive to the accusation.
But wait, if someone is a talented rising star, why does a slightly awkward party confrontation ruin their trajectory? I mean, it's just a party foul.
Because you have to remember what a director's job actually is. Their primary job isn't just capturing performances, it's commanding an army of hundreds of crew members and managing a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, it's a massive operation.
Massive. So if an ascending actor demonstrates they're willing to corner the ultimate kingmaker at a party and publicly accuse him of professional misconduct, however mild, they're signaling that they do not respect the chain of command. The ecosystem simply doesn't tolerate that level of friction directed upward.
Okay, that makes the Rachel Zegler saga make so much more sense.
Oh, the Rachel Zegler situation.
Yeah, this one had the forum buzzing.
Yeah.
So Rachel Zegler, the star of the upcoming live-action Snow White, reportedly halted production on that massive Disney film to throw what users described as a temper tantrum because she didn't get an invite to the Oscars.
Right.
She goes public, creates this huge media debacle, and angers Disney, affectionately referred to as the Mouse and Spielberg, and the Academy itself. To me, this is like shutting down your company's global supply chain just because you didn't get invited to the CEO's birthday dinner.
That's a perfect analogy.
But I do have to push back a little here. Like, in an era where actors are constantly told to advocate for themselves, is Zegler's action somewhat brave? Or is this just a staggering lack of self-awareness?
What's fascinating here is that framing it as bravery completely ignores how the machine actually operates.
How so?
Well, in the old-school Hollywood hierarchy, the ultimate sin isn't a lack of talent. The ultimate sin is a lack of deference to the machine. You have to remember, the studio system relies on total control of the schedule and the budget.
Right. Time is money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every day a movie like Snow White shuts down, it costs the studio hundreds of thousands of dollars. When a relatively new actress disrupts that massive financial apparatus over an award show ticket, she isn't seen as a renegade fighting for her rights. She is quantified as a financial liability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The forum users really nailed this. One person jokes that they should have hired DJ Khaled to personally deliver her a "Congratulations, you played yourself" plaque.
Oh, that DJ Khaled joke is brutal, but it's so accurate. But if an executive will freeze out an ascending actress just to protect a bruised ego or a production schedule, imagine what that exact same machinery does when it's mobilized to protect a criminal secret.
Right, which brings us to the much darker side of this ecosystem.
Yeah. We are talking about the systemic blacklisting of people who simply tried to set boundaries against predators.
Yes, this is where the retribution economy turns from petty risk management to deeply malicious, coordinated silencing.
The thread brings up Harvey Weinstein over and over again. And the forum highlights Annabella Sciorra, who is absolutely brilliant as Gloria on The Sopranos, and Mira Sorvino. Both of their careers were severely derailed by Weinstein.
Tragic losses for the industry, honestly.
Truly. But wait, Mira Sorvino won an Academy Award. How can one producer, even a wildly powerful one, stop every other studio in town from hiring a literal Oscar winner? I mean, studios like making money, right?
They do, but this is where you have to understand the mechanics of the Whisper campaign.
The Whisper campaign.
Yeah. Weinstein didn't just refuse to hire Sorvino, he actively poisoned the well. Directors like Peter Jackson later came forward and confirmed that Weinstein's company, Miramax, explicitly told them that actors like Sorvino and Ashley Judd were a nightmare to work with and should be avoided at all costs.
Wow. Just a blatant lie.
Completely. And when a studio head tells a casting director that an actor is a nightmare, it infects the entire casting network. Agents who represent multiple clients are quietly incentivized to steer their other clients away from projects involving the blacklisted actor just to stay in the studio's good graces.
That is just, it's terrifying.
It's a localized infection that spreads through the entire industry.
The thread also points out Courtney Love, because for years she was heavily labeled as controversial by the media. But the archivists point out that she'd actually tried to warn women publicly on camera about going to Harvey Weinstein's hotel room.
Right, way before the larger movement.
Exactly. And her budding acting career was smuggered, at least in part, for trying to be a whistleblower.
And we see this systemic protection of the powerful repeated across different institutions within the industry, like The thread brings up the incredible story of Brendan Fraser.
Oh, yes.
He was essentially exiled from the A-list after he refused to stay quiet about being sexually assaulted by a high-ranking member of the Hollywood Foreign Press, the group behind the Golden Globes.
Which is wild because he was arguably one of the biggest box office draws in the world at the time.
He really was.
Though I do love reading the thread's enthusiastic support for his recent renaissance, getting back to working on massive projects with directors like Martin Scorsese. But I want to ask you about the historical precedent for this. Because the forum reaches way back to old Hollywood with Tippi Hedren. Can you explain how Alfred Hitchcock managed to destroy her career?
Yeah, that really comes down to the studio contract system. So Tippi Hedren was the breakout star of Hitchcock's The Birds.
An iconic role.
Iconic, but according to the thread, Hitchcock had been sexually assaulting her. And when she finally refused to marry him, he explicitly threatened to ruin her. And because she was bound by an exclusive multi-year studio contract, he had the actual mechanical power to do it.
Because he basically owned her labor.
Exactly. He didn't just fire her. He refused to let her work for anyone else, and he made sure that Universal Studios did not promote her for an Academy Award. He effectively froze her out of the industry's highest honors while legally trapping her in a contract where she couldn't act.
I see this constantly where the media calls it a career setback for these actors. But reading this thread, wasn't this actually a coordinated quarantine by the industry to protect its worst secrets? Like, calling it a setback feels like a massive PR cover-up.
I completely agree with your framing. It was a quarantine. If we connect this to the bigger picture, true power in this context isn't just about the ability to greenlight a movie. True power is the ability to control the narrative.
Right.
By blacklisting these individuals, the abusers weren't just punishing them. They were neutralizing their credibility so the abuse could continue unchecked.
That makes total sense.
But, there is an incredibly beautiful coda to the Tippi Hedren story that the source material highlights.
Oh, the pivot. This absolutely blew my mind.
It is profound. After being pushed out of mainstream acting, Tippi Hedren became a fierce animal rights activist. But more than that, while visiting a refugee camp in California, she noticed that the Vietnamese immigrant women there were fascinated by her manicured nails. So she flew her personal nail technician in to teach these women the trade. She empowered them with a tangible, marketable skill. Because of that single act of pivoting her marginalized power, she essentially founded the Vietnamese American nail salon industry.
Which is huge now.
Right. It is now a multi-billion-dollar economic engine. It perfectly illustrates how power, when denied its original outlet, can be redirected into lasting, real-world impact.
That is just... She couldn't act on screen, so she literally altered the economic landscape of the country for a whole demographic of immigrants.
Yeah.
That's real power.
It really is.
But this idea of narrative control, how does industry actually enforce that narrative day to day? Because it seems like they rely on very specific vocabulary.
Exactly. The most insidious tool in the retribution economy is the weaponization of the word difficult. And what the Fulmoy thread illustrates so clearly is how unequally that label is applied to enforce cultural norms.
The poster child for this in the thread is Katherine Heigl.
Oh, definitely.
For years, she was absolutely roasted by the press. People called her every name under the sun for what the forum now recognizes as pretty standard complaints. I mean, she called the set of the Judd Apatow movie Knocked Up a Boys Club. And she criticized the writing on Grey's Anatomy. But the thread mentions this. And I have to admit, I don't totally remember why she was complaining about the writing. Was she just being a diva about her lines?
Not at all. And the specific context the forum brings up is vital. She complained because the showrunners forced her to act out a storyline where her character was having full-on romantic sexual relations with the ghost of her dead ex-fiancé.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And the show later revealed that this ghost was actually a hallucination caused by a cancerous tumor in her brain.
She was having ghost tumor hallucination sex on a primetime medical drama.
Yes.
I mean, who wouldn't complain about having to act that out with a straight face?
Right. It sounds utterly absurd when we say it out loud now. But at the time, she was immediately branded as an ungrateful diva who was biting the hand that fed her. The industry demanded gratitude, and she offered critique.
And the forum points out other examples of how this label is used to punish people who step outside the accepted boundaries. Like Matthew Good. He was sidelined simply because he publicly called out Harvey Weinstein for deliberately hiding the fact that the lead character in the movie, a single man, was gay in the marketing materials.
He literally just stated a fact.
Just stated a fact. And then you have cases where it isn't even a single executive punishing the actor, but the entire culture. I'm thinking of Laura Dern and Janet Jackson.
Yes, the Laura Dern example shows how society at large acts as the punisher. Her career suffered a massive hit simply because she played Ellen DeGeneres' girlfriend on the famous Coming Out episode of her sitcom.
Just for taking a role.
Exactly. And Janet Jackson was effectively blacklisted by Les Moonves and the industry because she refused to apologize to him for the Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction, an event where she was literally the victim of a costume failure.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If you look at these examples, it seems like being blunt or demanding is a career ender if you are a woman like Katherine Heigl or a marginalized voice. But it's treated as a badge of honor, a sign of eccentric genius, if you were a male director like Michael Bay or James Cameron.
Yep, the double standard is glaring.
Are we finally reaching a point, reading threads like this, where the public understands that the word difficult usually just means unwilling to compromise your sanity or your dignity?
This raises an important question, though. What role do we, the audience, play in this ecosystem? Because reading this Fulmoy forum retrospectively, you are watching a culture actively trying to apologize to the people it previously helped cancel.
Oh, that's true.
We buy into the PR narratives. We repeat the label difficult. The industry can only blacklist someone like Katherine Heigl or Janet Jackson if the audience agrees to stop supporting them financially. The forum shows a collective realization that the public was complicit in enforcing those industry norms.
That is a tough pill to swallow. I mean, we buy the tabloids, we click the articles.
Yeah.
But to balance out these heavy systemic issues, there are moments where the call is quite literally coming from inside the house.
Yes, definitely.
Sometimes it's not a rigged system. Sometimes the actor just hands the industry the match to burn their own bridge.
Yes. The unforced errors, the people who play themselves through just a baffling lack of self-awareness.
The prime example in this thread is Adrian Brody. The choices this man made.
Just bizarre.
The forum brings up how he got himself permanently banned from Saturday Night Live by putting on fake dreadlocks and speaking in a stereotypical Jamaican accent to introduce the musical guest, Sean Paul. Completely unscripted.
Yeah, Lorne Michaels does not like that.
No. And then, the moment he won his Oscar, he grabbed Halle Berry, who was presenting the award, and passionately kissed her without her consent on live television. But I have to ask, how does that actually destroy a career? Hollywood famously loves and protects eccentrics. Why was he pushed out?
It comes back to the mechanics of making a movie. Think of Hollywood as a massive corporate immune system. It relies entirely on predictability to protect its investments.
Right.
When a studio spends $200 million on a film, they have to secure completion bonds and insurance. They have to plan a global press tour. You can be eccentric on screen, but if you prove that you are a live wire liability on a live broadcast, or if you go off script and do something deeply offensive on national television, the immune system recognizes you as a foreign threat to the budget.
Ah, I see.
The machine will simply find someone safer to invest in.
That makes total sense. It's a financial risk metric. The forum also mentions Will Smith doing Janet Hubert, the original Aunt Viv from The Fresh Prince, completely dirty early in his career, though he did apologize decades later.
Right.
And there's a rumor about Cherry Hilson allegedly writing an unreleased diss track aimed at Beyoncé, which effectively got her blacklisted from mainstream music.
You don't mess with Beyoncé.
You really don't. Oh, and Shia LaBeouf completely burning his bridges with Steven Spielberg by making highly negative public comments about him, which the users attribute to his severe drinking problems at the time.
Yeah, that was a huge fall from grace.
There's a brilliant quote straight from the source material regarding Adrian Brody that just sums this up perfectly. One user wrote, "I don't know if he's an asshole or just has no self-awareness. It's like if Michael from The Office suddenly became an A-list actor."
That's hilarious.
At what point does eccentricity cross the line into career suicide?
Well, the synthesis here is pretty clear. As we've discussed, the systemic institutional power of Hollywood can absolutely crush the innocent to protect its secrets or its egos. But when we look at Brody or LaBeouf, we see that a complete volatile lack of self-awareness is the one thing that will make the industry turn its back on you organically.
Okay.
If your eccentricity threatens the bottom line or the public relations strategy of the corporation employing you, the ecosystem will spit you out regardless of how talented you are.
So what does this all mean? We've unpacked the mechanics of the blacklist, the economic realities of bruised egos, the whisper campaigns that protect predators, and of course the financial liability of unforced errors.
The core takeaway for you, listening to this deep dive, is that power in the entertainment industry is constantly masquerading as something else. The next time you read a headline claiming a celebrity is difficult to work with, you should immediately stop and analyze the source.
Ask the deeper questions.
Exactly. Who is doing the complaining? Are they complaining because the actor is genuinely a liability to the production? Or are they complaining because the actor refused to play along with a toxic, deeply entrenched system? You really have to look past the PR vocabulary.
Exactly. You have to ask who benefits from the narrative.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've spent this time discussing the traditional Hollywood blacklist, which relies on studio heads, whisper networks, and these massive PR machines. But in today's era, where any celebrity can bypass a studio entirely and speak directly to millions of fans on their smartphone, is the traditional Hollywood blacklist even mechanically possible anymore?
Oh, that's interesting.
Or has the power to destroy a career simply shifted away from the corner office executives and directly into the hands of the algorithms and the internet mobs?
Wow. As we just traded one set of untouchable gatekeepers for a completely different kind of machine. That is absolutely something to think about. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives you were sold. And remember, the next time you look at that glittering map of Hollywood, don't just look at the skyline. Look for the fault lines. We'll catch you next time.